Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let me just say, I have sour grapes. I believe a young champion, a guy on the rise, a guy who just gave, in my opinion, a championship level performance, has been robbed of his title. Right? On my scorecard, quite frankly, Fedor Chudinov beat Felix Sturm by at least, and I mean at least, a couple of rounds. Now, I've been online here and I've read other people who believe that Felix Sturm gave a heroic performance and that, the old man came and in an inspired fashion nicked Fedor Chudinov. To me, that just doesn't remotely resemble the fight I saw. Now, let's be clear up front, right? Let's set a few ground rules here for this conversation. First, can we agree that in boxing, there's no extra round that we're going to give you just because you've been in the game a long time and have had a good career? Right? Every fight should be judged one at a time. There's no extra round for career appreciation. Right? So if an old guy shows up and looks good for an old guy, that doesn't necessarily mean that he deserves the round. Right? Let's also agree that if you throw a punch and the other guy blocks the punch, right? The other guy has a hand up or moves a hand up and actually catches the punch on a forearm. Or the other guy takes a step back and the punch misses him. Then even if the crowd cheers, even if the crowd screams for the old guy throwing the punch, that's a defensed punch. Right? That punch hasn't landed. The volume of the crowd doesn't change the fact that the punch hasn't landed. Let's add in another rule. I think this one is very important for this fight, right? Even Bernard Hopkins would have been embarrassed by the way Felix Sturm worked the referee and got a break at times in this fight, right? If you're on your front foot and you're fighting a guy who is backing up periodically, right? And you're the one bent over, and you're the one coming forward, then if the heads clash, you're the one to blame, right? You can't fight like Timothy Bradley and then suddenly say, hey, I've been head-butted. Hey, look, then get your head out of the other guy's grill, right? I have to tell you, I saw 12 rounds here. I didn't see a single time when Fedor Chudinov leans his head and headbutts Felix Sturm. If anyone's being aggressive with their head, it's Felix Sturm. In fact, look at the guys. Felix Sturm is bent at the waist and he's leaning forward, right? His head looks big and, in your face like my head right now, right? Fedor Chudinov fights pretty straight. He's not bending forward a lot. Right? So who do you think is to blame? This fight was so preposterous that there's a round where Fedor Chudinov is dominating the round. Then Felix Sturm leans his head in. Right? There's a clash of the heads. Then Sturm stops fighting. I'm not even sure if Bernard Hopkins would have been so brazen in getting a breather. Sturm, who leans his head in, then claims he was headbutted and stops fighting. Walks across the ring. There's a break in the action, right? Coincidentally, this happens later in the fight when an old guy would want to take a breather, right? Just to keep up stamina-wise with a younger lion, right? So, put me among those who'll concede. I'll readily concede that the first round, close round, I gave the round to Felix Sturm. The second round, close round, you could have given that round to Felix Sturm. But can we agree that there are certain rounds in this fight that clearly belong to the champion? I mean, clearly belong to the champion. I thought the fourth round, that's an excellent round for Chudinov. Excellent. Keep in mind, too, while I'm saying it's plausible to give the second round to Felix Sturm, what that means is it's plausible to give the second round to Fedor Chudinov. I mean, they're close rounds, then they're rounds the champ clearly wins. I thought the eighth round is masterful, right? The young champ shows you why he's a young champ. I thought the 10th round, even with the Felix Sturm fake headbutt, right, where Sturm buys himself time. The fight that comes to mind, by the way, for that is Hopkins against Calzaghe, when Hopkins claimed he was hit below the waist. You remember that farce, where Hopkins needed a breather, got a breather. Here, Felix Sturm needs a breather. Oh, he's headbutted while he's sticking his head forward and bent over, right? Okay, whatever. I thought Fedor Chudinov, if you look at the rest of the round, was masterful in that round. In fact, the problem I have with this fight is summed up in the 12th round, right? When Chudinov, right, takes a step back and takes a step up. In other words, when he's up on his toes and he's kind of mimicking Roy Jones. He has a move he does where he backs out of the pocket, then he's up on his toes, and he's moving around like this. Another guy he's imitating here, Vladimir Klitschko, 12th round against Tyson Fury, right? When Klitschko decides to, throw himself into a different gear, right? In fact, Klitschko earlier against Tony Thompson, right? The second fight, when Klitschko comes out, loses the first round, then starts going like this and starts getting up on his toes. When Fedor Chudinov gets up on his toes, in other words, when he takes a step back out of the pocket, keep in mind a lot of this fight is Felix Sturm coming forward, right? When Chudinov takes a step back to give himself space and then gets up on his toes like he does at the beginning of the 12th round, folks, the fight is not competitive, right? The young champ is just too fast for Felix Sturm. He's getting off shots. He dominates the first minute of the 12th round, right? In my opinion, there are times in this fight, right, the 10th round, right, before the headbutt thing, the 12th round. And keep in mind, I'm picking later rounds for a reason, right? If you gave Sturm the first two rounds, if you believe the old man started the fight fast, just understand Fedor Chudinov catches him and then passes him. Look at the two guys at the end of the fight, right? Felix Sturm is spent, folks. Fedor Chudinov looks like he could go another 2-3 rounds, right? Don't tell me that Fedor Chudinov didn't finish strong. I thought he won the last 3 rounds of the fight. Now, I don't know how, in a sport where you have to take the champ's belt. In other words, if it's a draw, you don't get the other man's title. The other guy keeps the title. I have no idea on this fight where I thought Chudinov wins the fight. Right? At a minimum, I thought before they announced the scores, Chudinov's going to leave with his belt. I have no idea how none of the judges, think about it, none of the judges had Chudinov winning the fight. Right? That's a mystery to me, folks. Let me say this, too. There are times in this fight where Felix Sturm is courageously coming forward and trying to cut off the ring, trying to get in Chudinov's face. But what I want you to do is to actually look at the punches he throws. Right? He does land some great counters. There are times where Chudinov comes in and then his head snaps back. I'll give Sturm those. Right? But understand, a lot of the time, Sturm is moving forward. He throws a few punches that are blocked. then he doesn't do much. Right? The fact that he's moving forward isn't enough to beat a champ who's throwing punches back and who's landing punches. Right? So, a friend warned me before this fight. He said, hey, man, the politics. Sturm in Germany. What else do I need to know, basically? Right? And I thought to myself, you know what? The young lion, the young champion, won the first fight in Germany. And I just thought, I thought the young lion did better in the second half of the first fight. Right? Seemed to figure out Sturm's style. Right? Sturm wasn't going to surprise him in being front foot heavy. So I rolled with Fedor Chudinov in this fight. And let me just say, admittedly sour grapes. I was expecting the young champion to successfully defend his title. But let me tell you what really gets my goat. It's the fact that I believe he did. Right? Convincingly. In other words, while I can say that when Chudinov takes a step back and gets up on his toes, right, he's superior to Felix Sturm. I can't name you the Sturm move where Sturm is superior to Chudinov. In other words, as Sturm is coming forward, watch the champion, now ex-champion's hands. They're up here. Right? As Sturm's throwing hooks, Chudinov is blocking the shots. Right? He's blocking them. Even giving Sturm the first 2 rounds, even if I shade close rounds like the 6th round toward Felix Sturm, I just don't know how he comes within 2 rounds of Fedor Chudinov. So what I'm hoping here is that one of 2 things happens. Right? I'm hoping either Sturm realizes that he's lucky to have had these judges and then steps away from the sport. Right? Okay, you got a gift. Consider it a farewell gift. Right? This is a pretty big moment for him. He beats a young lion. He wins the 168-pound belt. It's his 5th title. Okay, great. Big moment. Right? He has to know that he lost this fight. Right? In the post-fight interview, he said, hey, maybe this is it for me. Right? In my opinion, if he walks away, okay, fine. I can live with that. Right? They gave him parting gifts for his career. And then, of course, have the, title open, allow Chudinov to fight the next man in, a title match. Okay, great. Or the sanctioning body has to order the 3rd fight. Right? Has to. If you thought the first fight was close, right? At a minimum, this fight, in my opinion, is the kind of fight which should cause an outcry. Because I don't know how a guy enters the ring with the belt, fights this fight, finishes strong, right? Literally spots Sturm in Germany, right? Gives away the first round, maybe giving away the second round. Then literally comes back, catches him, passes him, right? The 12th round, as I said, the first minute of the 12th round, I'll just say the guys come out of their corner. They both try to be energetic. Sturm then becomes a spectator. As Chudinov flashes hand speed, Sturm at this stage of his career doesn't have anymore, right? And Chudinov gets up on his toes and is outside of the pocket and is moving around and throwing punches and bunches, right? How could anyone look at that 12th round and feel that Felix Sturm actually is the champion at 168 pounds? Right? So let me just be one of those, and it's sour grapes. Look, I don't want to pretend that I won the bet I placed. I lost it. I was rolling with the champ here. Right? This is the view from the losing section. Okay, I lost this. very sour grapes. Right? Very sour grapes. I have a sour taste in my mouth right now. But if Felix Sturm doesn't retire, then the next fight both of these guys have needs to be against each other. And let me make a big suggestion, and I understand it's probably not going to happen because, of course, in boxing, promoters are looking for box office, right? And Felix Sturm in Germany is box office heaven. But please, to the boxing community out there, I hope there's a way that the powers that be can have this fight moved to a neutral location, right? Or have this fight moved to Chudinov's neck of the woods, right? They fought twice. Both times have been in Felix Sturm's backyard. How about a fight in the other guy's backyard? Or how about a fight in a neutral place, right? And can we also have it set up where we actually get esteemed judges, right? Judges we've heard of, right? Judges who, when you hear the guy's name, you say, oh, that's right, I've heard of that judge, right? Can we get, subset of judges that we know are completely credible here, right? So, I have to say, with 2 rounds left in this fight, I thought it was obvious on my scorecard that Felix Sturm had to do something dramatic to beat Chudinov. I'm just telling you on my scorecard, from that point forward, Chudinov wins the 11th, Chudinov wins the 12th. If you want a little synopsis on the fight, look at the first minute of the 12th round. Also, someone is going to have to explain to me the 10th round. Chudinov comes out, he's dominating, right? Suddenly, Felix Sturm walks away from the action, right? Claims he was headbutted or something, right? This, by the way, is as he's trying to walk down Chudinov, right? Then he throws a little flurry after the break, right? Crowd goes crazy. Then Chudinov proceeds to reestablish his supremacy in the round. Is there anyone who saw that 10th round, the one with the headbutt, that feels that Felix Sturm won that round, right? I've read many Twitter posts where people are saying, oh, Sturm, great performance, he edged it out. If you believe that Felix Sturm won this fight, or that this fight was up for grabs in the 12th round, as the guys on Box Nation seem to think, then I'd like to hear from you, right? Do you feel Felix Sturm landed more punches than Chudinov? Right? If so, please, tell us your view. If you want to name the rounds where you thought Felix Sturm won the round in convincing fashion, and I'm talking about with the volume down. I understand the crowd, Felix Sturm must have brought a lot of family members and cousins to the fight. I understand the crowd was firmly for Felix Sturm. But if without the volume, you think a viewer could look at rounds and say, that's clearly a Felix Sturm round. Not a round like the first round where you're looking at it and you say, you know what, I think Sturm may have been more aggressive. No, I'm talking about a round like, let's say, the 8th round for Chudinov, the 4th round for Chudinov, right? The 10th round for Chudinov. If you feel there are rounds where you could say, this was a decisive Felix Sturm round, I'd like to know what rounds those were. Okay, especially in the second half of the fight. As I said, I gave Chudinov the 10th, 11th, and 12th rounds. Also the 8th round. I had him winning at least 4 of the last 5 rounds, folks. Right? I thought he literally caught and passed Felix Sturm. I thought this was a young champion pulling away late. Instead, it turned out to be an ex-champion who loses 115-113 on 2 scorecards and 114-114 on the 3rd card. Right? Absurd. Anyway, that's how I saw it. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments in the comment section to this video, and thanks for stopping by. Thanks for sitting around and hearing me vent.